Good morning, everyone. We're really excited to talk to you guys about this because it's been something that a lot of us have struggled with or started to struggle with. Just a little bit about myself. I just graduated from the law school here in May, passed the bar, and started practicing in Sydney. I live about an hour north of Sydney with my husband on a pig farm. So I'm a lawyer by day and a pig farm assistant by night. And all of us are searching for or have searched for jobs in rural Nebraska, so everything outside of Lincoln and Omaha, and it's been a struggle for a lot of us. I know finding the right job and finding a job was probably the hardest part of law school, and if you know how hard law school is, that's saying a lot. So I'm going to let each of the panelists go down the line and introduce themselves really quick before we start talking about the questions.
Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Story. I graduated from UNL in May. I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska. I'm a first-year law student, so I'm jealous of her position a lot. My connection with Real Futures is I was involved with the serviceship program through UNL and through Real Futures, where they sent pairs of students to different rural communities throughout the state to work on a project. I was paired with Jared Kenobi, and we went to Red Cloud, Nebraska for 8 weeks of summer after my sophomore year of undergrad. There I completed a housing survey and then helped plan 2 community cleanup days.
Hi everybody, my name is Dana Marsh and I am a second-year medical student at UNMC. I am from Hardington, Nebraska, small town in the northeast corner of the state. I was pretty involved in my community in high school and beyond. I went to college at Creighton University in Omaha, got my nursing degree, and then right away I went back to med school in Omaha. So I live in Omaha with my husband and our little dog.
Hi everybody, I'm Amber Ross. I am from the small town of Callaway, Nebraska, which for those of you who don't know, it is between North Platte and Kearney and then just a little bit north of there. Our town has about 350 people in it, so it's not very big. And then my high school has about 127-12. And so I am a senior this year. I'm one of 13, and I have been honored with the chance to be a part of the Custer County Youth Leadership Team for the 3rd year in a row. I was a founding member my first year, and the past 2 years I've been a mentor member. And our youth leadership team works to get the students to look back at their community and see what's great about their community.
Hi everyone, my name is Heather Tomasek. I am from Fort Calhoun, Nebraska. I am a 2014 graduate from the College of Architecture. I got 2 degrees there. One is a Bachelor of Landscape Architecture and the second one is a Bachelor of Science of Design. In the fall 2013, I worked in a service learning studio with the community of Crete, Nebraska. That led to an internship the following summer. Before I began my internship, I traveled to the Galapagos and participated in a service learning, course down there with a group of 12 students. In the Galapagos, we worked with the Santa Cruz Island, developing and designing 3 different parks. One of those parks is actually built today. After I returned, I started my 5th year in the program with the college and working with the community of Council Bluffs, doing a master plan and focusing on the riverfront development. That studio led to my career now, which I am the Parks Department's very first parks designer. Professionally, I've been very busy the last year and a half. I have worked on a 90-acre revitalization for one of the most historical parks in the area called Fairmont, designing the city's very first splash pad. I've also worked on conducting a citywide inventory of all public ash trees and creating the Emerald Ash Borer Recovery Plan. And also kind of the most high-profile park project that I'm on right now is that I'm on the design team for phase 2 of River's Edge Park, which is at the landing of the Bob Carey pedestrian bridge. So that is kind of my past and where my focus has been the past year and a half.
So as you can see, we have a wide variety of ages and different professions up here. I know for me personally, one of my biggest aha moments and like kind of what changed, even though I didn't really get a choice to move to Western Nebraska, my husband lived there on a pig farm, so it was chosen for me, but I love it out there. And one of my biggest aha moments in searching for a job was we have an incredible shortage of attorneys. And I know there's a joke like, who needs an attorney? We don't need that many attorneys. We really do. We have a lot of big business with agriculture and a lot of small business owners that need protection and that need help managing their $28 million in income a year is a lot to manage, and so they need help with that. And so my biggest aha moment was the fact that like we need all of these attorneys. There's not a lot. There's very, very few of us that are under the age of 40, and yet I was pulling teeth to try and get somebody to take me on as an associate. I plan to stay there forever. I plan to raise kids there. I plan to build my life there, and yet I was begging people for a job. So I would like all of you to kind of touch on what was your biggest aha moment, whether it was good, bad, whatever, and how has that like the rural experience or that aha moment changed what your future plans are? And we're gonna start down at the other end.
Okay. I guess for me, I had several aha moments, and they were all during my different service learning studios. Starting with Crete, Nebraska, working a full semester with the community. The studio, it has upper level classmen, and so we're at a level of rigor and understanding of our different disciplines, but we're able to really help the community and get that real world experience. And then when the summer came and I learned about 2 internship possibilities, I was so excited that I would have the ability to continue the work that was done and actually have impact. I was sought for the work that I did during the studio and was so excited that I could actually have impact in this community, I could continue the work, and that there were actually leaders that were really interested in the work that I did just as a student, an 18-year-old girl. And so that was really exciting for me. And then it's been so exciting too to work on actual park projects, and it's seeing these designs that we worked on as a studio, actually the community like going and building what we designed, and just knowing that we have a very unique skill set that can help a lot of either developing countries or rural communities with faces or with problems that they have. So for me, that was a big aha moment, is that my skill set can help, and I was so excited to be able to work with both communities.
Okay, so my biggest aha moment would probably be just the kindness and the compassion within our community. There's not very many of us, but about 5 years ago, our Good Life Center, which was under the Good Samaritan Center, it was about to close its doors. And because we didn't have enough people to work there, we didn't have enough residents, we just didn't have what we needed there. So our community came together and we raised over $3,000 within a 48-hour period and to save our Good Life Center. And that was just a huge plus for us, which was really cool just to see how that all worked and see that our little community can do so much to save what we know we need. And then another one would be just when somebody gets sick in our community or something happens and there's a disaster, our community comes together and we do fundraisers, we do dinners and just different things like that to gain funds for that family so that they can continue what they need to do but still pay for medical bills, still pay their rent, still take care of the kids' needs. And so for our community to come together like that is just huge, and that's not something that you find anywhere else.
All right, so from more of a health perspective, I think my aha moment was kind of spread out over my first year of medical school. And we do spend a lot of time talking about how to prepare physicians to work in a rural community, because especially in Nebraska, but in all parts of the country really, there's such a shortage of physicians and other healthcare professionals in rural areas. And I think what struck me most is that for healthcare professionals, when you return to a more rural community, you actually have a broader scope of practice, and you have a lot more flexibility in what you are able to do, and you can, really tweak your practice to what suits you and what suits your community. And I think that's really exciting because that's not actually something that all physicians and all healthcare professionals have the opportunity to do in larger cities. And then another part of it that is really exciting is that there's so many programs out there that help with loan repayment for these healthcare students that graduate school with such a massive amount of student debt. And I think it's so important that there are all of these organizations and people out there who are willing to help you with that. And really, with whatever kind of healthcare professional you want to be, there is possibility to work in a rural community if you want to. And there are so many people out there who are willing to help you do that. If you want to do private practice or if you want to work with an organization, it's really, the possibilities are endless, really.
In my experience, I had two aha moments that stand out in my mind. The first is I came to Red Cloud as an Omaha kid. I lived in Madison, Norfolk, but compared to Red Cloud, that was pretty different. So I went down there thinking, oh, I'm not going to fit in. They're not going to take me seriously. But I was very surprised at how they embraced us into their community because we were willing to take those leadership opportunities. They're looking for young professionals to come into that area. Just like you mentioned, Red Cloud just lost one of their doctors and they're struggling to get another doctor there. They only have one there. With attorneys, I'll kind of piggyback off of Katie. I ran into a Franklin attorney and he's like, well, I'm pretty much the only attorney in town and I'm looking to retire. I'm waiting for the right person to come in to take over my practice. And as a sophomore in college, I was just blown away that just one meeting, they're that desperate to have attorneys. I looked last night and I think the state bar said there was like 11 counties that didn't even have a single attorney in it. So there is a need, and I think these communities are ready for young professionals, even from Omaha like myself, to come in and bring some new voice.
So our next question has kind of been a topic, and I think our follow-up question will go off of this, that people have been talking about in the coffee shop talks. How do we best equip students to move back and work in these rural communities? Dana, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, speaking from my own opinion, I think the biggest thing is to just let them know about the opportunities that are out there. You know, if you want to come back and work as an attorney or a doctor or a pharmacist, you know, we need to know that the community is willing to work with us and help us out in ways that we need. I know some of us were talking earlier this morning about how we maybe not always know the first step to make when you're starting your own practice or business. And it's nice to know that the community would be there to help you and work with you about that. So yeah, I think just letting people know about those opportunities that are out there.
Heather, you want to?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and add in. Is this on? Can you hear me?
No.
Nope. Hello? Is that good? We're on. We're good. Okay, so for me, I grew up again in the Omaha, Fort Calhoun area, and I can't stress enough, it was really the service learning studio. Spending 15 weeks working with Crete, I knew who the stakeholders were. I knew every face in the breakfast group that was leading the initiative. I knew a lot of the business owners, and so when they approached me with this internship, I already knew the people there, and so it made it really a no-brainer, and I was so eager to continue that work with them. But it was really that 15 weeks spending that time with that community that I can't stress just made me so much more comfortable and deciding to drive that hour and a half to that small town every day. They also were really flexible too. Once I did have the internship, you know, they said, hey, you don't have to be here right at 9 o'clock. You're driving an hour and a half every day. Come in when you can, you know. If they were very flexible with my schedule too, which is helpful. If you want to work from home on Fridays, that's okay. Just make sure you take care of your hours. So it was really the combination of having that relationship established through the service learning studios, and then having the the city administrator, having the city administrator who was my boss be really flexible and understanding that I was committed to this job and really flexible with my hours and when I could be there. So,
Amber, if you want.
Okay, I'm going to roll off of my youth leadership team this time, but I think to equip our students to come back to rural communities, we need to have groups like that are showing students what their community has that's just awesome and what are places that they can work to improve their community. That's one thing that my that my team works on a lot is looking at my community, seeing what it has, and then what we can use off of what it has to build off of what it doesn't. So for my first year in my team, our final project, if that's what you want to call it, we got together as a group and we had our high school and our junior high, so our 7-12, vote on someone in our community, not just in our school, that really has made an impact on their life. And so they look back on their whole lifetime and they found someone that they thought was just awesome and had shown them real compassion and real kindness. And so we looked at the strengths in our community and then had other kids look on those strengths. And I think to get our students to realize what they have in the rural community, we need to give them that chance to really think about what we have to offer them.
Jeff, if you want to wrap us up.
Sure. I think for students like myself, it's really hard to come from Omaha and Lincoln and think that a rural area has a lot of potential or that they're even open to someone like myself. But I think the biggest part and the best way to equip students is to give them that exposure. I think without going to Red Cloud and realizing that I could make a difference in that community, in 8 weeks I would have never even contemplated working as an attorney in a small town. So I think more service learning in undergrad, like the architecture students do a lot of that, doing the rural rotations in med school. I know the State Bar just did a road trip across Nebraska to small firms. I think that's what's needed in the higher education system to show that there are opportunities there. It's not a step backward. It's just a different step. You're taking a smaller practice, which is a wider scope. So you're doing a lot of things that attorneys, in Omaha and Lincoln or even Chicago, bigger cities, aren't going to be able to do because you have to do it all and you got to learn on your feet.
So my follow-up question was one of the questions in the coffee shop talk, I guess, that it sparked a lot of interest and there was a lot of discussion. What is something that attracted you to a specific town, or what do you need in order to move to a rural community and be successful? I know for one of my friends, she needed law school classmates. She needed to find a job for her husband. I know for me, one of the biggest issues I face is finding internet. Yes, we have broadband internet, but it's satellite, so it's very, very limited and incredibly costly. And so when I want to work from home, it costs me a ton of money to be able to work from home. And so those are two things that I know for me personally, and I've heard were huge. What is something, and you guys can go in whatever order you want, what is something that a community had you liked, or something that you know you need? You can start. Jeff, you can start.
I think, to be honest, it'd be hard for me to move without a steady relationship and or married to a smaller community. I can't picture being single and 24 in a town like Red Cloud, but hey, it could happen. So I think
his girlfriend sitting in the audience.
I think some things would have to happen before that to be comfortable.
I think for me, I would need to know that it's a good fit with the community that I'm going to. Knowing that you are really compatible with the people that are there and that you can have a good working relationship with those people. And also, if I'm being completely honest, loan repayment opportunities is really huge for healthcare professionals, and that definitely helps.
I guess for me, I would just have to know, it's not on, is it? Okay. I would just have to know that there are opportunities for me and for my family, and that I would be able to raise my family in kind of the same situation that I was raised in, where, if you had an issue in town, your mom was right there, or your neighbor was there and they could help you, and you weren't just on your own all the time. And that would be huge for me to come back. The compassion and the kindness around in the community.
I guess I'll wrap it up here. For me, being a landscape designer and a landscape architecture specialist, I would just want to know that the community is open to change, and that there would be, interesting projects for me to focus my attention in, and just opportunities. But knowing that whatever I'm invested in, the community is also invested in supporting the change. Just because I like to design. But.
Along the same lines professionally, I think it'd be really hard to move into a community where you didn't have support, like everyone's mentioned, or someone in the same career to be a role model to you. We talked earlier about, a solo firm. If you're going in right out of law school, it would just be I don't know if you could do it. So I think having someone older in that role, or somebody in the community you could look up to, bounce ideas off professionally, I think would be really important as well.
Mentorship.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll follow up a little bit on the loan repayment as somebody who's starting to repay my student loans. The hard part is, like, I grew up in a small town in Colorado. I've always known I wanted to return to a small town. I love where I live. I love where I work. But I also make less money than my counterparts do, and I provide just as good of service, if not better. And that's fine, because, like, the cost of living is slightly lower, but my student loans don't change based on that. I walked out with scholarships out of Nebraska law, which is one of the most, it's like number 4 in the nation for best value, with $78,000 in student loan debt, and that's just from law school. And so I have to figure out how to make those payments while the kids who are making $120,000 a year make the same payments. And so we got the legislature to give us a little tiny bit of money, but it would be incredibly helpful if somehow communities could figure out, the medical profession does it really, really well. Vets in some states do it really well. If you work, they pay your student loans if you work for 5 or 7 years. Some sort of that would be incredibly helpful, just because we are coming out really, really strapped down. And I have some of the lowest student loan debt of anybody I know. And so those kind of things, I know money sounds terrible, but I know personally, it's not my salary that's important, but helping me, like, put a down payment on a house or pay my student loan debt or something like that is helpful, because otherwise I can't figure out how to do that for a couple years. And if I buy a house, I'm more likely to live in that community than if I'm just renting. So I guess we can start taking questions from the audience, and if you guys don't have any questions, we can go back. But I think there's someone with a microphone. There's supposed to be. There's someone with their hand way in the back.
Many of you have said multiple times about knowing about opportunities. How are you finding out about those? There's probably not one single spot, but do you go back to your hometown newspaper? Are you looking at your college's career center, talking to faculty? Are you hearing about them from mom or dad? So if communities want you to know about opportunities, do they need to promote them locally because you're looking there, or do they need to be reaching out to where you are at school and posting them at those institutions and locations? And then also, Facebook used to be a big one, and is it community Facebook pages, or is there something new that you follow that maybe they could be posting those opportunities on?
I can answer that. I have a job. For me, it was really my professor. She came to me, and with the community of Crete, the city administrator approached her and talked about these 2 internships that he'd like to have. And so she kind of had her pick, and it was my faculty member that approached me and said, Heather, would you be interested in this? Tom is looking for 2 interns. We hope he can at least get 1. He ended up getting 2. It was myself and then a planning student. So it was a very fun and diverse summer. For my real job, that was just an internship. For my real job with the community, or with the city of Council Bluffs, it was at service learning, where I worked with Larry Foster, the Parks and Rec Department director. He kind of watched me as I was presenting to the community, and there was a position that opened up. It was more for grant writing and finding resources. It was a resource coordinator. And he said, I'd really like to see you go after this position. He approached me directly. I'd love to see you apply. We typically do not hire landscape architects for this job, but man, I know it'd be really shooting for the fences here, but I'd love to see you apply. I actually interviewed so well with that he hired someone else and then created this position just for me. So, and that was based off of having 1 internship. So all of my experience came from all of this service learning. It was real world experience from these different communities, him coming and being a part of our studio and watching the different students that he actually came to me directly. In both circumstances, both guys came to either our faculty members or to the students directly. So, and I was hired before I even graduated. So.
I would like to address that question also. I think a really, really great way to let students know about the opportunities is to incorporate these things into curriculums as much as possible. I know Jeff touched on this a little. I know in my med school class, we are required to do rural rotations. And I know a number of students in my class have already talked about how rural health was off their radar until they did this, and they've all had such positive experiences that they've been seeking out these opportunities more. So I think that can translate into many other professions, not just medicine, kind of forcing people out into the rural communities and letting them know what's out there. It really helps.
And I know they had a fair on Wednesday at the East Campus Union, and I think that's a good start to what communities can do to let students here or anywhere know that there are opportunities there. It's not just a dead zone that a lot of Omaha and Lincoln people think out west. We are looking for young professionals. We're here, we're talking to you. I probably would never join a community blind, so you need to create those relationships right away. And I think if somebody has met somebody, developed a relationship, I think they'd be much more willing to come out and work.
I want to touch on this too because this was kind of my baby in law school. We created a Greater Nebraska Connections group to specifically try and get students connected with those attorneys in Greater Nebraska, because otherwise we couldn't find the jobs, and we had all these people telling us, oh, this county doesn't have an attorney in this county, and this county, and then we'd have like one person in one area that was really cool, but they aren't hiring 25 of us. And so I guess our biggest struggle was trying to get it connected, and lawyers are the worst about trying to go through official channels. You would think that's what we should know to do. And so there were never anything posted on the school website. I started just pounding the pavement out west and going an hour in every direction from our house and just meeting with people and meeting with people. Didn't get a job that way. I actually, because of the group and my involvement, my property professor had been contacted by one of her classmates from KU that's friends with one of my current bosses. And they were looking for someone interested in transactional law, which is what I do, to move to Sydney. And she was like, I have the perfect person. I know somebody just wants to do that. And so that was great. After one interview in October, I was offered the job. So that was a great experience for me to finally find a job. But I know a lot of it comes specifically speaking from law and attorneys, just because that's what I'm most familiar with. We need to start making communities and the professionals in the communities use the official channels, Career Service Office has a list of potential job opportunities. That's where we go to look for it. I think a lot of us do, or that's the easiest place to send us. And those career service offices, especially in the law school and I'm sure med school, and it's harder in the undergraduate, they know who we are and they know where we're looking to go. And so they can really, and they know, okay, so this is your personality, and they can really try and pair you with the right person. So you're not just hiring someone, you're hiring the right one. And so that's really, really important, because I know a lot of attorneys don't want to come to the fair because it's a 6-hour drive from where I live to drive here. And so we don't go to Lincoln a lot, we go to Denver. And so for us, and I know we're the way extreme, that's the biggest part, is to there's really cool fairs and career fairs here, but we are not going to drive 6 hours one way for a 1-hour career fair to maybe find someone, which is really negative and really silly, but that's the attitude. And so I think if they could use official channels, the problem with community Facebook pages, I guess, is what if I don't know what community I want to go to, how do I know to follow your Facebook page? And so that's, I think, a big issue for, I knew where I was gonna live, I did not know where I was gonna work. I looked Ogallala, Sydney, Scottsbluff. Those are very different communities. And so there's a lot of people like Jeff who don't know where they want to go, but they know they want to go somewhere. And so I think that's the biggest part with community Facebook pages, in my opinion. The official channel is kind of lame, but it's also probably the most effective. Are there any other questions?
This is a directed question to Amber.
Okay.
Can you speak a little bit more about the Capable program in Custer County and specifically within the relationship between youth and the business community and kind of the exposure that you have or that you and other participants have gotten through that program, and maybe a little bit about the program specifically?
Okay, yeah, I would love to. This is kind of my baby. I've been with it through all 3 years, and so it's just kind of my little thing. But the Capable group is the Youth Leadership Custer County team I'm a part of. The schools around Custer County, so there's Ansley, Litchfield, Broken Bow, Arnold, Callaway, and Sargent. And those schools send 6, well, this year our school only has 3, but so between 3 and 6 representatives, student representatives, in the juniors and senior classes. And those teams work together to establish what they have in their community that they think is awesome, and then what they don't have and they would like to improve on. And so the first time that you meet, you kind of get to know everybody. You just kind of work on starting your project ideas and that kind of stuff. And then your first project is to do a video about your community. And then your second meeting, you look at the judicial system in Broken Bow, and you look at how that's done. We got to tour the new Justice Building in Broken Bow last year, which was really cool. It wasn't quite done yet, but we hope to get to do that again this year. And then you have a mock trial. So you lawyer people, you probably like that.
No, I don't.
And then your third day, which is honestly my favorite, but it's the hardest day. If you've seen Shark Tank, the TV show, it's like that. You have 2 hours to put together your business proposal. It's really scary, and then it's really stressful. You have to figure your annual income, all of that. It's really crazy in 2 hours. And then the last hour of the day is spent presenting in front of different business leaders from around Custer County. So we had one from Myrna, a couple from Callaway, or a couple from Broken Bow, and then there was one from Callaway. And so then they shot questions at you. What are you going to do when this happens? What are you going to do when that happens? How are you going to face this challenge? And so that's kind of the business day. That's where you figure out that I could start my own business. I could do it. It would be scary, but I could do it. And so that's an interesting day. And then the final day is the day that you talk about what your group did. And so like our most influential person was our project our first year. And that took a lot, but it was fun to see that our math teacher really does influence a lot of our kids in our community, not just in our school, but outside of our school. So does that answer your question?
Are there any other questions?
So given the challenge of Opportunity Fair, Facebook, all of that sort of thing, is there a social media or other way that an Opportunity Fair could be offered digitally, electronically, that you know of, other media that you access all the time?
I think Facebook would be like a great facilitator if you can get the word out to the right people that you want to show up, I guess, and make sure that they can see it would be the biggest hurdle with that. Can any of you guys?
You know, the College of Architecture, most colleges have their own Facebook, so if that is the platform you're using, maybe post something or connect with that college to see if they'll post on their own Facebook. So I'm sure the College of Business has their own Facebook, things like that. But I really go back to when I was an undergrad, I probably wouldn't be creeping on Crete's Facebook page. You know, I'm more interested in the social aspect. But if you had the college post something, if you could connect with these colleges, I think that could be successful.
I think you need to talk to the college directly. I'm on social media a lot, but I'm not looking for a job on social media. I hardly know how to use my Facebook. So I think for me to find a job, I'm going to career services, and every university or college has it. So be it Wesleyan, UNL, that's where I go directly.
I would echo that point also. I think it would be most effective to just reach out to the school. I mean, you can use Facebook probably to help a little bit, but I wouldn't rely on it. I agree. I wouldn't use Facebook to look for a job. I would use other avenues.
And I'd be afraid it's not official. You know, I'd want it to be more professional and like I know it's the real deal. You're not just looking for anybody. You're looking for the right person, as she mentioned.
The other thing I can only think of is LinkedIn.
Right.
I have a LinkedIn, but I do not use it in the most appropriate way, I guess, that it's supposed to be used. I'm not really sure how that is. So, I mean, do any of you use LinkedIn? Would you use it to look for a job?
I also have a LinkedIn account that I don't use, but I know a lot of people that do, and they say good things about it. So I think that would probably be a good one.
I think our generation misses something about LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think so.
Because we hear at the college all the time, oh, you need a LinkedIn, it's the way to go. And then I have one and I update my profile, but I have no clue what to do with it. Right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm the same way.
I don't know if that's the way either.
Other questions?
I could confirm your experience at Red Cloud. I was there this summer, but a couple years ago, as part of is actually a baseball play that was incorporated Willa Cather and Williams Jennings Bryan into it. And when it was performed, it's like, this has to be done in Red Cloud, of all places. So anyway, it was there this summer, and I grew up in a small town but live in Omaha. But I took a trek down to Red Cloud a couple times to put a display in the library. But when I went down, I took the interstate and the highway. When I left, I took the back roads back. When I went back the second time, I took the back roads back. So it was really, when I went down there, it was kind of reiterating the fruits of the rural life. It was really an experience taking the back roads, it was the highways, but the other one was realizing it's the whole thing's kind of the road less traveled. It's whether it's the destination or the way to get there. But the other thing that made me think of the distance to get off the road is I stopped once on the way back, and it was so dark and black and clear out that it was just incomprehensible. So anyway, I just stopped the road, the car right in the middle of the road, and the highway shut off the lights and just absorbed the skylight. And because it was just full of stars, and there's so many intangibles that are part of the deal. But anyway, when I was there, the library it almost came alive. I found out it's newly redid. They were having a little ceremony, but it really was a draw for the community. And but to see the multi-age people come in there, utilize it, I mean, there was a great sense of pride. So, it is bearing fruit. And the final thing that occurred to me, it's like, growing up, it was kind of the sense of place and pride, and the fight song, No Place Like Nebraska. Well, I think as time goes by, it's kind of like the Real Futures is the walk-on program. Before it was the players coming to Lincoln, now it's like the players are kind of going back out to the rural in a way. And so for me, it's just a personal image of it, but I think it speaks powerfully for what's going on this few days. So you're bearing fruit in the rural areas.
Thank you. There's another question.
Hi, I'm 4 years ago moved to Scottsbluff from Omaha to manage a law office, so we should talk after this.
Yeah.
But in moving out there, in my impression of my experience, and to share kind of your thoughts or impressions is, I think sometimes we come out of this as rural communities are very bubbly and friendly and welcoming, but when you get there and you're from not there, it tends to be a very closed network. It's hard to get in, hard to get involved. You really have to struggle to find avenues to actually get involved in and join the community. And if that's something that you guys have seen or shared, or what your impressions are of that.
That's definitely perception. And if I were to go back to a town where I had no connection, I would definitely want to create a relationship that I trust with somebody that's well respected in town. To know I'm not just somebody that's just coming and squatting and trying to make a living. You know, I'm there because I care. Like, I don't have any connection here, but I want to make connection here. So, you know, I get that impression, and it's very intimidating as a city person. So, yeah, I would need somebody else to help integrate me into town.
Anybody else?
I can't really speak to it since I'm from a small town. I haven't gotten anywhere else but my small town, so.
I mean, I personally don't feel that for myself, but I have spoke to other people who have agreed. And, you know, I spoke with a PA this summer who is working in a small town that he is not originally from. He loves the small town, but he said he feels like he has a smaller practice and smaller client base because he's the outsider and people don't trust him yet. And I think it's important to remember it's a two-way street. You know, you kind of have to put yourself out there. But yeah, it's challenging.
I guess from my experience, you know, with the service learning studios, my professor, the faculty member, had met with the breakfast group, so all the kind of players were at the table and very welcoming, and they knew when we were coming to town. I didn't really experience that personally, but I can see how that could be the mindset sometimes.
And I'll just wrap it up with I've run into the same thing. I'm from a small town in Colorado, which doesn't necessarily something I tell people. And then when I follow that up with I'm an attorney, they have flat out turned around and walked away from me. So usually I now start with my husband and I own a pig farm. And that usually helps because that shows people that I'm tied to the community. But they're very, very weary. Rightfully so in some parts. I mean, my firm has gone through, I'm the 4th associate in 4 years. So they put a lot of time and effort into someone who then leaves. And it breaks the heart of those communities. And some of it's just we're a little, and in western Nebraska, we're a little tougher, a little rough and tumble, because we kind of have to be to make it through. And so it is really, I'm from a farm family, and it's still really hard for me to break in. And they're nice once you get to know them, but people can be really mean. And it doesn't make you want to stay there when people are mean. So we hope this helped you guys. Thank you all. We are going to turn it over now.